Hi, good morning. I wanted to come on and just first address and thank every 11 minutes. That is the beautiful honoring and way to send off if you are in loss of this fentanyl crisis. There can be a memorial video or images, story told for your loved one. My son Dylan lost his battle, his addiction to alcohol with the fentanyl poisoning. And his toxicology report indicated and only indicated showing Delta 9 and 2 times the legal limit of alcohol in his system, and the trace amounts of fentanyl. When I received that toxicology report, I tried very hard at that time to process what all that meant, and I did my research. I do know that Dylan, well, let's go back to the video. Again, having the video made for every 11 minutes, and I wanted to also thank Alyssa's dad. There's also Eric Krittendorf, who lost his beautiful daughter to this fentanyl crisis. I am on this podcast, the DK805 podcast, with Christy, and she lost her son, Devin. We are sharing our son's stories. She's not here today. She is in Orlando today, and I have to actually figure out where she's at because she travels a lot for work, and she can be in New York, she can be in San Francisco at any given time. She has an urgency to get to where her work carries her many places. So we spoke this morning. Christy also did a video for Devin, and she received, there's always going to be, we prepared ourselves for that with the podcast in itself. Social media in itself can bring with it, there are always going to be opinions that aren't going to be, that can hurt your heart, that cannot feel, they can feel like, I'll say bullying, but I'm not. So I just want to this message today, I prayed about it a lot, talked with Christy on the phone, and I wanted to address, after I posted my video and she had shared her posting of her son's video, the responses that she received. I posted my video, and the responses, because there was cannabis, Delta 9 was a huge factor in my son's life. I will say, in his toxicology report, it was Delta 9 and trace amounts of fentanyl, and 2 times the amount. Alcohol was his substance abuse disorder. Weed is what he started with, and that is what I would like to address today. There have been a lot of comments on my message. The video message that was out was just to honor my son's beautiful life, him as a baby, to share the life that when you think of someone that struggles with addiction, that there is a whole life before that. And Dylan had a beautiful childhood. I was blessed with 28 years with my son, and our family shared a lot of beautiful memories. We are so grateful for those. Dylan, at age 21, his addiction with alcohol became very apparent, and that it was going to be a problem. And it didn't start with alcohol, it started with weed. And so my messaging today is to say that I am not attacking or wanting to have there be any a misunderstanding, that I do understand that some people use that as harm reduction, and I do understand that my son thought of weed himself as medicine, but as his mother, it was very clear that his mind was altered very quickly, and he chose higher strains of legal marijuana that he purchased at legal cannabis stores. And it got worse and worse. So I'll just go back to, he did start smoking weed at about 16. He was an avid skateboarder, and that was a part of a lot of his friends. So along with weed in those early stages, and you know, it was for me growing up, weed was a very mild substance. It wasn't something that we are seeing now, where there are psychoses happening. The Delta 9, the synthetic strains are sending teens into the emergency rooms like in a crisis level. So there's new trainings happening for even just in the emergency room, how to handle if your son or daughter is in a psychotic episode from weed. It shows very prominently. For my son, he hid that part well, and for years it just grew. His addiction to weed grew, and along came, that was a gateway for him. That isn't true for everyone, and I wanted to clarify that, but it is for my son. That is a big part of his story. So when COVID hit and things were shut down, he had a loss of a girlfriend. He had earlier in his childhood had traumas. We had suicide in our family. His family on his father's side lost. We had 2 suicides. So there was trauma, there was loneliness, anxiety, depression, and when COVID hit, he was in isolation. And when the world shut down, they were putting sand in the skateboard parks. So many young people were suffering from that, the isolation and loss of friendships, just their world's closing down on them. But what could still be coming to the door was legal sales of weed, and they were being delivered. I do have access now to all of his bank statements, and I know that during the height of COVID, when people were not able to work and were being told to vaccinate, my son was asked to leave a rehab center because he would not get vaccinated. He did not believe in vaccinations, prescription medications. He did not believe in microwave food. He would drink only bottled water. So to break down that stereotype that people that suffer with mental health and addiction and their own ways of self-medicating, to break the stereotype that they just will do anything and put anything in their body. My son was very protective of that, to the point where we couldn't even talk or say the word addiction. He did not think of weed as an addiction for himself. It was his medicine. So I just want to touch on that because I feel that a lot of people felt from my video and my sharing what was in his toxicology report, there were some questions and that maybe were confusing, and I do want to clarify. So for people that have said that there is no synthetic weed being sold, that is not true. And I would just want you to, you can Google, you can chat GPT will give you facts. These are not left or right situations. Chat GPT is just going to give you the current data that all is put into an algorithm from any sources, whether that is from the DEA, that is from any people that work in investigations for crimes and for like in autopsies. All that information is put into one fact checking space, and that's chat GPT. And you can get the truth in terms of what if you need to know. I said laced cannabis. To clarify, I would like to say that is my understanding based on his toxicology, that without any other polysubstances in his body, such as a benzodiazepine or any opiates that were in his system when he was found unresponsive. I have to know that he did always have weed with him or would seek weed when he was in anxiety. He had left treatment, and I would have to assume, because I did ask the hardest questions a mother would have to, or a father has to ask. I did ask those questions. Was my son's body harmed? Did he have any appearance of any other drug use? And that answer was no. So I have my understanding of how that came to pass. And so I had questions such as, it can't be laced, weed can't be laced, and that is not true. It's not laced on purpose. And so to clarify, it is contaminated. Fentanyl is a poison that is not intentional for a lot of people. It is in contact with other, so an illegal source of getting your weed, or if you are seeking a prescription drug and you're getting it from a friend, those are contaminated with poison. Almost all of that now, you can consider everything out there is laced with fentanyl, from cocaine to meth, from your Xanax to your anything that you are Vicodin, to anything you're seeking without a prescription. And if weed is in an illegal state where it's being given to someone without knowing where that came from, just by having it in contact with another substance, that is, if someone's selling weed, they're selling often, most times, other drugs. That is more than likely how I believe this contamination happened. Again, I was not there. I would give anything to have been there, because this would not be my story. But I just wanted to clarify that. I wanted to make sure that my story wasn't being misunderstood in a way that I was criminalizing or wanting to make this about cannabis. If you have found harm reduction and it's not in misuse for yourself, I am only wanting people to have the facts. I only want to know that, yes, there are synthetic strains of being sold legally, high strains. They have to make it synthetically. They add acetates to that strain of THC to make it the highest strains, in order to give you that psychotropic high, that high that gives you, that is the one that's sending you into psychoses. My son suffered from psychosis. He did get diagnosed with schizophreniform, and schizophreniform he was diagnosed in his first rehab with that, when you could tell that he was not able to, he would sink into that heavy high of that Delta 9, that weed, that strain, the highest strains of cannabis being sold legally. He had a medical marijuana card, but it was those high strains that were causing him to have his diagnosis of schizophreniform. When you're in schizophreniform, you will not make decisions that will ever be right. So I'm hoping that I clarified some of those things. I again, first and foremost, thanking every 11 minutes for giving my son his time to share my gift of seeing my son in his beautiful life, that we have memories, and no one can take those away from me. Christy and myself are fighting for the fentanyl crisis that is stealing our children. Over a million young lives, ages 14 and younger, but the majority 14 to 35 are gone. And those are mothers and fathers and siblings and grandparents and shattered lives, that we're trying to prevent that happening to just one person, one mom that can hear the dangers of weed. It's not harmless, and and just to know the facts. I did think it was harmless when Dylan. I thought it was the lesser of I thought I was lucking out because it was the lesser of. He wasn't a heavy drinker until he turned 21, and that happened very fast. It was startling. I have shared that on the Hopeaholics podcast, another beautiful podcast that had us on as guests to share our stories. But this recovery community has just been amazing. There's been so many messages, beautiful messages also on this beautiful memory that every 11 minutes made Jeremy Kelsey made for Dylan. So many beautiful messages of love and support and condolences, but there also were a lot of, I felt I needed to address messages that I think there was just misunderstanding, and I wanted to clarify. I wanted to send my love and my hope to every single person that is finding their way through either recovery and the struggle with addiction. And as parents, just to know the facts. If you are curious about whether something is, if your young adult is telling you that they know something that you just think, just know the facts, find out yourself. There's enough information now being given that we do know, and it doesn't discriminate. Addiction does not discriminate. There's another, we were trying to break the stigma. We're trying to break the shame that comes. And when you put your story out there to try to save people after you have endured the loss that Christy and I have, and so many other mothers and fathers are sharing their stories, to be bullied in a way that feels that way. And I don't mean that to sound, I'm not pointing the finger at any one thing in particular. I'm just telling you that there's a time and a place for opinions, and then there's a time and a place just to be kind and show empathy and compassion, because we're all just walking each other home here. And I just wanted to say thank you for that, the love again. And there are so many beautiful books I wanted to share with mothers that are like in the current walk with Chasing the High is one of the early ones that I found a lot of help in, just to understand. It's the latest information on substance abuse and its treatment, tips on managing daily life in recovery from substance abuse. There are so many beautiful books. Dark Nights of the Soul is another one that is just information. This is a really good one for your struggling young addict or addicted SUD, substance abuse disorder. My son also, wording was really, really important to him. And the word addict can be triggering, addicted, but substance abuse disorder is real, and it is a disease, and it is painful, and it is hard to go through it. It's hard to see your loved one struggle. It's hard to share the story to try to save someone else, and it's hard to be ridiculed or feel shamed for sharing your story. And I just would like to share that. And that's what I wanted to come on today and say. And keep doing the work. Reach out. If you're in recovery, if you're in current recovery or in active addiction, reach out. If you're in grief, reach out. I'm receiving your messages. I'm trying to respond back as often as I can get to them. The best way we have found, we were redirecting people to the DK805podcast.com, where the episodes of our earlier episodes without video were on, and that's more for podcast. We are now on YouTube, and so the best way to reach us and have the messages respond, we can respond to your questions, and we're receiving them, but that would be on the Instagram account or Facebook. Christy takes care of Facebook. I take care of the Instagram. And I love hearing from you. I love praying with you. I love that we can share as mothers in loss and the pain that it is to go through the journey when you're in searching all the things you can. So I hope I touched on all the things that were question marks about my feelings about cannabis. And I thank you for being a part of our journey and being supportive, and your love and hope mean a lot to us. So thank you.